I am so happy to be back here for my weekly tea break chat and Q&A. Hi. So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Lindsey Hall and I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And that means that the work that I do is all about helping people feel empowered in their lives, live joyful lives that they absolutely fucking love, own their power and their pleasure, and really just step up into these lives that we all deserve to have. And one of the many things that I do as a result of this work, or not as a result of, but in my work, is these weekly tea break chats. So if you are new here, I'm so glad to see you. I've had a break for a few weeks. So if you are not new here, then thanks for sticking around. Also, just like to point out, I'm in my friend's garden and there is a massive umbrella behind me, so I keep seeing it like poking up the top of my head. That's why. Not ideal placement, but hey, such is life. It was far too warm and sunny to not sit outside in the garden to do this, so we're gonna have to deal with the umbrella behind my head. Anyway, so I come on, I do these weekly chats, and I talk about what's been going on in life lately, what's come up for me, what lessons I've learned, that sort of thing, and then I answer your questions. And this, like I said, I've had a break for the last few weeks, so there's been loads going on. But I have been off on vacation I was back home. So I live in England, but I was back visiting my family in Wisconsin for almost 3 weeks. I attempted to do one of the tea break chats while I was there. I had grand plans to keep them going this time, but I attempted to do one while I was there, and it just was too hard. There were too many people around, too much going on. I had a stinking awful cold for 2 of the 3 weeks, which meant that it was just a struggle to keep enough energy during the day as it was, let alone do extra stuff. And so I let the tea breaks slide. We got back last week, and again, I was planning to do it right when we landed, but y'all, even though I do this like every year, I every year forget how much jet lag sucks. In particular, like jet lag itself isn't all that awful if you're just like traveling as a grown-up, but when you are traveling with 2 little kids and then you get back and you are all worn out from the trip, because no matter how amazing a trip is, it slowly drains your battery. Then we had to get back. We all had to deal with the jet lag. We all had to deal with the tiredness. We had lots of big emotions, the sadness about leaving our family, the excitement of being back, they got to see their dad again, like all of that. And I got to hold all of that for them and me. And then there's always, whenever I come back from these trips, every year there's big stuff that goes on with me and my co-parent. It's a tricky time for us. There's big stuff going on with somebody else in my life at the time. So there was just a lot. So all of that means I'm not even entirely sure where to start with what I want to tell you this week, because we could be here all day if I told you all the things, which nobody wants. I'm aware of that. So I guess like one of the main things I want to say about all of that is the huge reminder to be gentle on yourself and to embrace the flow of life. So rather than everything having to be super rigid and super structured all the time, or, yes, I had planned on doing the tea break chat when I got back, and then because of all of the things, it just felt far too much. And don't get me wrong, I advocate for, diligence, for perseverance, for, what's the word I'm looking for? My mind's drawing a blank here. But just because something's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I believe in that stuff. But that said, I was wiped and I had all this other big stuff going on, and it was okay for me to not show up here to do that. I know that a lot of you are interested in hearing about the travel story, so I will keep it short, but essentially, if you watched the 10-minute tea break chat, the short one I did while I was away, I told you about my trip over to the States a few weeks ago and how my flights got canceled on the way to the airport, and we ended up at the ticketing desk at Manchester Airport for an hour while the wonderful woman did help us get new flights scheduled, and it was all this big hullabaloo. What you might not believe, but I really truly can't make this up, is that when it came time to fly back home from Wisconsin to England, My flights got canceled on the way to the airport again. Seriously, my sister was driving us to the airport. We had everything loaded up. We're all in the car. We're on our way to the airport. My sister's driving us, and I get a notification saying your flight's been canceled. What the actual? Um, so took a deep breath, stared at the app for a while, tried calling. Well, first I tried the chat function on the app, didn't work. Tried calling them. They said, we are very busy at the time. You can put in your name and phone number and we'll call you back when, like, you won't lose your spot in the queue. We'll call you back when it's your turn. It'll be somewhere between an hour and a half. I was like, well, we are less than an hour away from the airport. We are about 45 minutes away from the airport at this point. So kind of thinking, well, that's no good, but I'll put it in anyway. Anyway, we got rebooked from another airport about, gosh, I don't even know how many miles away it is, maybe 100 miles away. So we were supposed to be flying from Milwaukee in Wisconsin. They've rebooked us from Chicago. Didn't actually talk to me. It just showed up in the app. That was it. But luckily, my sister is super flexible and super amazing. And Milwaukee is literally on the way to Chicago. So when I finally got the final confirmation that we had in fact been rebooked on this Chicago flight and that we did have seats allocated to us and all that, we were a mile away from the exit that would have taken us straight to the airport, to the Milwaukee airport where we had been headed, or we could go the other way and head to the Chicago airport. So just quickly I said, Anne, we're going to Chicago. And she pulled up the sat nav on the car. Chicago was still saved from where she'd picked us up 3 weeks ago. And we carried on driving for another hour. It was like an hour and 10 minutes extra to get to the other airport. And we flew from Chicago. We got home at the exact same time. And everything worked out. So on the one hand, I cannot remember the last time I've actually flown on a flight that I booked. I seem to have a terrible record for my flights getting canceled. This trip in particular, both of them being canceled on the way to the airport, excessive to me. But on the other hand, all of my flights went so smoothly. We actually ended up on better itinerary. So our original plan was we were going to have 2 layovers. When they rebooked us, we only had 1 layover, which meant, just less faffing around with the kids and all of that. So everything went even smoother and the timings were great. And I truly put a lot of that down to the fact that I refuse to believe it will be anything other than that. Yes, I have a slight moment of panic of like, oh my God, what if? But it is like that fast. And then I just assume that we're going to get rebooked. It's going to work out. And do I wish I had to go through this every time? No. Would it be really nice to not have to handle rebooking flights? Live at the moment every time I fly, that would be fantastic. But also, it's just not the end of the world. Like, it always works out for me. We always end up where we're going, basically when we want to get there. It really just isn't, it's just not a big deal. It just works. And like I said, I really truly believe that a big part of that is down to the fact that of course it's going to work. Of course I'm going to get booked on a flight. Of course we're going to get where we're going. Of course the girls and I are going to be fine. I pack enough food to feed an army. So my daughter and I are both gluten-free. My oldest daughter, gluten-free food on the go is very tricky. So I pack enough food that despite the fact that we've never had the actual gluten-free meal on the flight that we need, we always have enough food for us. Like, we're fine. So really just trusting that no matter what happens, it's going to work out. And then, surprise, surprise, it does. So that was a big part of the last few weeks. And then another thing that, I guess, back to what I was saying about, like, there was just so much going on last week, is just really giving yourself that permission and that compassion to let things happen as they need to happen. So I mentioned that whenever I get back from a trip, things are tricky with my co-parent and I, and I'm definitely not going to go into details on that because it's not mine to share, and it's, live, ongoing situation. But I will say that this is, again, something that it's, I know that this is a tricky time for us. I know that although things get tricky because both of our emotions are heightened and in different ways, and we are not as fully resourced as we ideally would be when we have big things to talk about. We sometimes do that really human thing where when you're worked up about one thing, you bring in other stuff to get worked up about too. I used to be the absolute queen of that. I don't do it so much anymore, but with somebody who you know so well and you have such strong past behaviors and patterns with. I mean, we were together for 12 years and it's been another 3 since then, so I've known him for 15 years. We have established patterns in our lives together, and although I am doing loads of work to break those patterns and break them on my own, they still come up with past people sometimes, and we can't ignore that. And it's so annoying, don't get me wrong. There has been so much these past few weeks where I'm like, I've recognized that I'm treating him in the same way. Like, I'm mad because he thinks I haven't changed, but then I'm treating him as though he hasn't changed. And all that is because it is so easy to slip into past behaviors and past patterns with somebody who you've known so well for so long. And 2 points to do with that really is that one, and coming back to treat yourself with grace and compassion and kindness. These are human things to do. You are a human. I am a human. We are all humans, and we are not going to be perfect at all of this all the time. So it's okay to slip up sometimes and to act in ways that you wish that you hadn't. But then point number 2 to do with that is that isn't an excuse to let it continue that way. That's not to say, oh, well, this is how we've always been together, how we've always acted, so it's just the way it's going to be forever. No. It's also really important to notice these things, to take accountability for your side of it as well. So I was a little bit in like, well, that's the way he always does it. And it took my coach, my coach and I voice note back and forth in between our sessions, and which, by the way, I offer too with my Elevate package. So we were voice noting, and it was like, oh, this is so frustrating that he blah, blah, blah. And her response back was, you're not going to like this, but it's my job to call this out. What's your accountability in this? What's your responsibility in your role? And I was like, I don't have a responsibility in this. Oh, yes, I do. And absolutely, I do. And that was my chance to look at, okay, yeah, where am I falling into past patterns? Where am I doing things that actually I haven't handled that as well as I would like to? That's not how current Lindsey or future Lindsey wants to do things anymore. And I need to acknowledge that as well. So we have a huge role to play in. All we can do is control our own thoughts and actions. But when it comes to communicating with your co-parent or a current partner or somebody at work or your kids or a family member, like anybody, when you get mad about, like when things are tricky between you, it's almost never just on them. We always have the responsibility to look at our part in this too. And trust me when I say that is not always easy. I don't love it. And part of that, that is one of my past patterns, is thinking that I am just perfect in the relationship. Like anything that goes wrong must be the other person's fault because I obviously always communicate perfectly and always do things in just the right way. And I never do the things I'm not supposed to do, right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. I mess up stuff all the time too. Yes, I'm always trying to do better, but I have to recognize what I've done wrong in order to try and do better. And so, yes, this week has also been about, it's wrapped up, and it can sometimes be a fine line between that, like looking at your responsibilities and your accountability, and also being compassionate on yourself at the same time. It can feel like being compassionate gives you an excuse, like, oh, it's okay, I did that, but it's not. It's more of a, okay, I can see I didn't handle that well. I am human. I am gentle on myself, and I'm going to work to make this better. I am willing to get messy. I'm willing to have them be mad at me. I'm willing to have, it's okay for them to be mad that I handled this badly because I did. And they have a right to be mad. That also doesn't mean that, people get to treat you badly because they're mad. So there's lots of time. Oops, I think we had an issue with video there. Hopefully we are back. I hope that this quality works, and it's not all pixelated. Anyway, I will move on now to the Q&A part. One sec. Because I'm at my friend's house. She only has Earl Grey. And I don't usually drink Earl Grey at home, but it's really nice for a change. I love it. Okay, so the question that I had this week was a really good one that also made me like laugh at myself and be like, yeah. Because the question was, why is growth so hard? And do you think that this is why a lot of people don't do it? And let me skip to the second part of the question. Yes, I do think this is why a lot of people don't do it, because growth is hard. So if you are feeling like I'm doing this work and it's fucking hard, am I the only one? Am I doing it wrong? Is it supposed to feel like this? Blah, blah, blah. You're not the only one. Yes, growth is fucking hard. And it can be easier to just not do it. Or let me do easier in quotes, because a phrase that I absolutely adore and use liberally is choose your heart. Because yes, growth is hard. But you know what else is hard? Staying stuck in a place that you don't want to be, staying stuck in a situation you don't want to be in, or using old communication patterns that aren't serving you well, or being miserable about things, or whatever it like whatever's making you that's the alternative to the growth. So yes, the growth is uncomfortable, but so is staying stuck in some shit situation. And back to the first part of the question of why is growth so hard? Because growth requires you by its very nature to go somewhere you haven't been before, to do something you haven't done before, to try something differently, to do it in a new way. And that newness is uncomfortable. Our brains are evolved to help us stay safe. That is like one of their main jobs in life, is to help us stay safe, stay alive. And a really great way to stay safe is to do the same things where you've already been in this area. You know there are no saber-toothed tigers here that are about to jump out and get you. You know that you can find food reliably. Like this little patch of grass that you have already sussed out, is safe. Anything beyond that, well, there could be saber-toothed tigers. You might not find food. Evolutionarily, this is what our brain is thinking. So it's the same thing in the modern day world. We know how to do the things we already know how to do, and our brain has already established that those things haven't killed us. So if we keep doing them, they're not likely to kill us. Like, keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna be alive. Like, that is what our brain is programmed to tell us. So anything beyond that can feel uncomfortable. But the thing is, you may have noticed there are no saber-toothed tigers lurking around the corner these days. There's a whole host of other things in the world. Like, we are not in the same place as our ancestors were way, way back in the cave dwelling days. And the threats to us these days are very different. Don't get me wrong. There are still threats that exist to us. Not to, they are very different. But anything that we want to do to grow requires us to go out of that comfort zone. And therefore, it's tiring. We have to constantly be assessing new threats. We have to constantly be trying to figure out if it's safe, trying to learn new ways to do things. It's tiring, not worth doing. In fact, the exact opposite is true. If you want to stay exactly where you are and not do anything differently, by all means, you're welcome for you, because I do not rest on like it's good enough, or this is better than it was, so I'm gonna stop here. I'm not having that. I am always on the quest for this can be better. And that doesn't mean not appreciating. We're going to try turning it and see if this helps. Way better than they used to be, but they can still be better. And that constant push for growth is exactly what I do in my own life and what I do for you as your coach. So I am going to try and wrap up now, because I'm not even sure anyone's going to see this with this dodgy internet connection. But I want to end by inviting you into my Elevate one-to-one coaching package. So Elevate is for the women who want to elevate their life. No matter where you are starting from, there is always room to go even higher, even better. And if that is the kind of thing that you want, if you're like, yep, take me higher, take me more, I want more in my life, let's talk. That is who I want to work with. we can go from whatever your starting point is and make it even better. More pleasure, more joy, better communications, more intimacy, more depth, more all of it, more capacity to hold, more capacity to hold duality in life. The more that you can grow and the more amazing things get to be. So if you are interested in that, like I said, I invite you into Elevate, which is my one-to-one coaching package. It is for 3 months. You get 3 calls a month with me, and you get the voice note access Monday through Friday. Like I said, that's how I talk to my coach, and that's what I offer to you because so much good stuff happens in the in-between. So much hard stuff happens in the in-between. So this is not just about you get a call every week or every 2 weeks. You get my support every day, Monday through Friday, for all of the little stuff in between too. And that is insanely helpful. So you get that, and all of that is £888 a month. If you are interested in doing that, book your intro call with me. You can go to the link in my bio. And if you are watching this on YouTube, find me. You can find my website at lindseyhallcoaches.com, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook, Lindsey Hall Coaches, and you'll get the link to book your intro call with me. We'll jump on a call. We'll talk about why you want to do coaching. We'll see if we are a good fit together, and you will make the decision whether you want to work with me. I'll make the decision whether I want to work with you. You'll decide if it's a good fit financially, and if so, we'll go ahead from there. There is never any pressure. You get to make the choices. I don't have anything to do with how what choices you make in who you want to be your coach, but we'll find out if we're a good fit together, and then you can decide from there. And I think that's all I have for today. I really hope you all got to see this. And if anything came up for you and you want to get in touch, leave a comment down below, send me a message. You can, like I said, website is lindseyhallcoaches.com, Facebook, Instagram. You can email me at hello@lindseyhallcoaches.com, and let's keep chatting. And if you just want to go right ahead and book that intro call, go for it. I would love to chat with you. Okay, that's all I've got. I will be back here next week to chat some more. And if you've got any questions for me then, watch my Instagram stories to send me your questions and I will answer it live. And if not, I'll talk to you later. Mwah.